Hey guys, Drewski here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. Now, pardon me today because I am a little bit sick, so I might mispronounce some words because I do have a really bad cold right now, so I might sound weird. I might kind of skip over some words and do things like that because I am on a medicine that makes me rather sleepy. But I tried to make a video yesterday, but I felt so bad I couldn't, so I got all the footage that you're watching right now yesterday instead of talking and trying to make this video. But I'll try to make it as quick as possible so you guys can get on with your merry old days. So, next-gen consoles, they're promising a lot of 4K games. Basically, E3 Microsoft conference was all about just the Xbox One X being able to output games at 4K. Now, that is pretty impressive, and that's always a good thing. As I said before, consoles being able to play at these higher resolutions is always good, because that means that video game developers, like let's say we're making Battlefield 1, we say, whoa, the next-gen console can run games at better graphics settings. Let's not have to worry about optimizing the game for the Xbox 360 anymore, and let's make the game have more features and stuff, because we don't have to kind of dumb the game down for a lesser powerful console. And that's always a good thing, because that makes games advanced faster. That means that graphics will get better faster overall, as long as new, more powerful consoles are coming out. And this is the new kind of system I think that is going to happen to consoles, is that they're going to come out more often, because basically the graphical power of video games is just it's advancing at a much faster slope. It used to be, every 5 years you'd see a really good jump in video games, but now we have games that come out even from the smaller companies that look just absolutely amazing compared to even some AAA titles. So there's a lot of games out there that are advancing in graphics a lot better, a lot faster than they used to, and I think that the reason behind all these consoles now coming out only maybe 4 years after the original versions of the consoles came out is just because, one, the companies want money, but two, they also want to be able to push the graphics like the PCs do. But my problem with the next-gen consoles, or the video game developers and how they're choosing to use the power from these next-gen consoles, is the way that they're using it. I loved Destiny 1. Let me just say that first off. I loved the first Destiny game. I think that it did have its problems, but I think that, I used to wake up every morning at 5:30 just to play Destiny because the PvP was good. It was a very, very strong game in terms of art design and art style, and I think that the kind of theme of the game really worked well with its gunplay, and I think that just it was a fun overall game to play. It was a lot different for console players to play it, but a big gripe from the community was that with the competitive multiplayer being so similar to Halo, kind of being competitive in a way, it was challenging for players to really play a competitive game at 30 FPS, and I think that, again, in 2017, all first-person, even maybe competitive shooters, sorry, I just bumped my microphone, even tiny competitive shooters should still run at 60 FPS. And I say this as a person who played Halo 2 back in the day, competitively for sure, and played it back in the day with 30 FPS at like 480p. It was something very, very archaic, some people might say today. But Halo 2 was one of those games that I played a lot back in the day, and I still play it sometimes on PC if some people are still playing online. I still go back sometimes and play it, just because it's such a good game. But it was still, back in the day, very, very challenging, even on some maps where the frame rate would go below 30 FPS. It was extremely challenging to aim in on places, even if the frame rate was perfectly fine, just because I even realized back then that the frame rate wasn't high enough. For a competitive game where it's extremely fast-paced, you have to turn around really quickly. You might turn around, like do a 180 and only see 3 frames if you're playing at 30 FPS. You can turn extremely quick and only see like maybe a few like slideshow of frames if you're playing at 30 FPS compared to 60. And so in my totally subjective opinion, I think that 60 FPS is definitely something that's a necessity for these first-person shooters that are coming out on these next-gen consoles in 2017. The thing about Destiny 2 is that even with the criticisms of Destiny 1 not running at 60 FPS, they ran at 30 FPS again. And they say, the reasoning behind the fact that it can't run at 60 FPS is because of the rich physics simulation, where the collision of players, the networking, all that type of stuff are the issue, and also just the CPU usage because of the new physics simulation, the networking, and all that type of stuff. That doesn't have to do anything with the resolution of the game. The frame rate of the game, really. The frame rate of the game is primarily based off of the graphics area, the graphics chip in the APU or something of these next-gen consoles. The reason that Destiny 2 cannot run at 60 FPS is not because of the CPU stuff. It's because of the fact that they're running the game at 4K. That's 200% more pixels than 1080p. That's a lot more data you're going to have to put into the graphics card to have to process every 30th of a second just to up the resolution. And my problem with this isn't because of the resolution being pretty. I'm not trying to down the console gamers, because I'm trying to kind of make a system that fixes, or just kind of propose a system that would fix this. And I think Jack Frags once said this before with another whole concept about graphical settings on Xbox and PS4. But what if there was a graphical setting option that could just change resolution? Because only 16% of the US population actually owns 4K monitors at the moment, or 4K TVs. And 50% of the population owns an actual game console. So we're talking about around, I would say, 25% of gamers having an actual 4K TV, and they're selling a console that runs games at 30 FPS at 4K. This is a problem because with these first-person shooters, there might be a person who wants to run the game at a higher frame rate and buys this $500 console to do so, but then they don't have a 4K TV to support that higher resolution. But what if they want to run the game at 60 FPS? Because 95% of TVs from the last 10 years can run 60 FPS refresh rate. And that's what kind of hurts me a little bit, because you could easily add an option in these games, like Destiny 2, for example, to make the game run at 4K 30 FPS, or slide it over to the left a little bit where it runs at 1080p at 60 FPS. It'd be such a little easy thing to do, and I think that it would fix a lot of the problems that I currently have with consoles, where they make it where they advertise, they look at these resolutions and they go, wow, 4K is actually really popular right now. You know, all these PC elitist gamers are running their games at 4K and such. And, you know, little kids looking up at these YouTube videos about these gigantic $3,000 PCs with dual GTX 1080s that are called 4K PCs might look at our console that's only $500 and say, wow, that's a 4K console. 4K right now is just a huge marketing word. And 4K, like resolution from a PC gamer that is played on 4K, 1440p, 1080p, 720p, all these different resolutions, is not that big of a deal, because even running a game at 4K, you have to, if you want to hit 60 FPS, you have to downgrade a lot of the graphical settings in a game to be able to run it at 60 FPS. And on PCs, that's not that difficult with more powerful cards, especially the 10 series on the NVIDIA platform. The graphics cards from the 10 series, even 1050 Ti, can run some games at 4K, which that's like $180 or something card, and it can run some games at 4K. Imagine yourself as a console gamer wanting to upgrade to 4K resolution. You have a Xbox One already, you want to buy an Xbox One X. That's another $500 to upgrade your game from 1080p at 30 FPS to 4K at 30 FPS. Now, this is a totally optional thing. You don't have to do this, but just in case you really wanted 4K, it's another $500 you'll have to shill out towards towards Microsoft, sorry, medicine brain, to be able to play the game at 4K, to be able to have that extra power in your system. On a PC, this is a totally different story. All the footage you're watching in the background is from my dad's computer. It's a computer from his vet office. It's like a Hewlett-Packard dual-core CPU sort of thing, and it's got like 8 gigs of RAM. It's got actually rather fast DDR3 RAM, but it's got a dual-core processor in it, and it had something like I don't even know. It was something that was probably $40 on Amazon right now as its video card. I don't even know why it had a video card. I think it was for like 3D graphing or something like that. But it had a very, very cheap video card, something like an HD 7770, I think. And that can run Battlefield 3 at like maybe 720p at 30 FPS-ish. And to upgrade this 720p 30 FPS computer up to a 4K gaming computer, it's not like I needed to buy a whole new PC. I just took out the graphics card and then bought a $218 GTX 1066 gigabyte, plugged it in, and I'm running all the footage that you're seeing in the background here at 4K on a GTX 1060. That's impressive. That's like super impressive. And able to run the game at near 60 FPS all the time. It never went below 30. There was one drop, I think, just because of some hard drive lag, but throughout my entire gameplay yesterday, because yesterday I was actually going to originally make this video, but I felt so sick that I didn't. All this footage is at 4K. I even was able to play Rainbow Six Siege on this dual-core CPU PC. I was able to play Rainbow Six Siege at 4K at around like 40 FPS. So that's above 60 on a PC that's probably worth, I don't know, $400 in total. It's just crazy how powerful you can upgrade a PC through a graphics card. And it's sad for these it's sad for the console gamers at the moment because they're stuck with a console that refuses to have graphical settings. And I don't know if I said this already in this video, because I've kind of resaid this multiple times, just because I've messed up a few times, because I definitely cannot speak as well right now. But Dragfrags made a video about this a long time ago. I think it was about just talking about what if consoles had graphical settings to increase frame rate on certain games. Like if a person wanted to play Battlefield 4 on their Xbox 360 at 720p, what if they want to play at lower graphics settings just to get more frames? Uncap that frame rate and allow the player to have better frames with lower graphical settings if they want, because that's a really nice thing to have, you know, and that's something that's extremely easy. It's something that's on PC. It's already coded into most of the games that we play, and it's something that Destiny 2 could easily have, where you just have a little slider that goes from 4K 30 FPS all the way down to 1080p at 60 FPS. And this is the thing with a lot of these games. Even in the Xbox One conference, they say 4K, 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 and they keep saying the word 4K, but I think the 4K word itself is just a marketing scheme overall. It's not super impressive. You do have to pull back a lot of graphical settings and even things like frame rate just to run a game at 4K, and I think that sometimes, in most cases actually, on PCs and on most graphical hardware like we have in the next-gen consoles, the game would look better actually if you ran it at 1080p at higher settings instead of running it at 4K at lower settings, because I guarantee you they're going to have to lower a lot of things to be able to run these games at 4K resolution. But the thing is that they're just trying to sell the more casual audience just on this 4K resolution, which isn't that really big of a deal. I honestly think that resolution above 1080p, and this is again totally subjective, this isn't really objective anymore, but resolution above 1080p is not that big of a difference. I have a I didn't choose a 4K monitor when I upgraded my monitor from 1080p. I chose a 1440p monitor because that still looks better, and it makes, I would say, a 20% difference in terms of visual fidelity, but a 4K monitor does like a 40% difference in visual fidelity. Like, it still looks a lot better than 1080p, but it's not something that's going to make me better at my game or make my screenshots prettier. It's just going to lower my frame rate like a ton, because the graphics cards and the chips and even what's going to be in the next-gen consoles just don't really, they're not super well able to handle 4K yet. And that's why I'm playing Battlefield 3, is because the 1060 isn't a 4K graphics card, although I can run it on some modern games like Battlefield 1 at 4K. I was actually able to play that above 30 FPS at all times, but still not perfectly at 60 at all times, you know. But Battlefield 3 ran at ultra settings at 4K, perfectly fine, always above 60 FPS, and I actually really enjoyed playing the DLCs on Battlefield 3 today. But yeah, so that's just kind of my discussion. I want to know you guys' thoughts about this. I want to kind of end it with you guys in the comment section. Comment down below what you think about my idea. Am I being way too opinionated about frame rate over resolution, or do you guys agree with me about this? Because I just personally feel like frame rate is a lot more important, especially in a game like Destiny, than resolution, especially when you're talking about, 1080p anyways is already such a good resolution, and when you're upgrading resolution and taking down frames, it's just, I keep repeating myself over the same subject, but I feel like it's just something that really downgrades the feeling of a game whenever you get a next-gen $500 console and you're still running games at 30 FPS in 2017. So yeah, comment your opinions down in the comment section down below. I'd be really excited to hear what you guys think about this. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.